Okay, once you're here, you're going to go to New Artwork. Let's go to Print. We are going to go to A2. 300 DPI is great. And Create. Okay, so let's get started by first uploading our sketch that you should all have. So make sure that it's on your desktop. I'm going to come here to the Upload Image. And I'm going to select my drawing. And now I have something to work with. So now is a good time to introduce how to change the opacity. So over here on my right-hand side, I'm going to lower the opacity just so I can only see part of it. And then I want to lock this in place. So if you look over here, we have pages. So I'm going to come in here into layers. So every time I draw something on my board, it's going to create a new layer. And if I want to not see a layer, I can click the eye icon, or if I want to lock it in place, I'm going to click lock. So I'm going to click lock here so that when I go back and I try to move it, it doesn't move. And then we're able to do our things on top. So let's go ahead and start with the banana here. So to draw the banana, I have a couple of ways I can do this. The first is I can use what's called the pen tool here. So if I click the pen tool and I start here at the tip of my banana and I click, 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 basically sort of tracing the shape all the way around. And I can get as small and as detailed as I want. The more detailed I am, the more lifelike and realistic this is going to look. Okay. And click where I originally started from. So you can see that it has the banana shape, but we also have a lot of sharp points, which are making it look kind of unrealistic. So if I double click, you'll see that there's all of these circles here. And if I pull these circles, it rounds out my edges. So you can go back in and round them out a little or a lot. If you can't see, you can zoom in using the little plus sign, really get in there and be as precise as possible. Pause this video, go ahead and round out your banana, and then go ahead and click play when you're ready. Now let's just say I missed a spot here and I wanted to go back in and add it. So I can double click to create a new anchor point and I can stretch it up. I can add another anchor point here, double clicking. So you can always go back in and edit these shapes as you go, right? So nothing is final. Okay, so we have the outline of our banana, which is great. And now if I wanted to fill it in, I can click it. And over here, you see we have a few option fills. So right now it is unclicked, but when I press click, the default color that's there is brown. But I can go in and I can change it either with a solid color or I can use some kind of gradient. So let's look here first to see how we add our colors. So you can kind of scroll around here. You have options with the opacity of it. I'm going to leave things a little bit opaque so I can see through, but I'm going to maybe choose what I think is a nice color for our banana. Let's do something like that. Great. And if I wanted to make this maybe a gradient, I could click linear gradient, choose a yellow color, and you'll see that this bar pops up that you can sort of change how you want the gradient to be. So where do you want the light to be? Where do you want the dark to be? Sort of like having the dark at the end, since our banana has a little brown tip. You could also choose a radial gradient, which just means that it's going to go from the center out. Okay, so we have our banana filled, and then if we want to get rid of this border, you can just click the check here, or if you wanted a different color border for whatever reason, you can, same thing, right? Choose color that you want, and you can change the thickness here of what your banana is going to be, or whatever else it is that you're drawing. I'm going to leave it without a border. So let's just say I wanted to add a little bit of detail. If I wanted to add a ridge here that has a slightly darker value, I can do it in one of two ways. The first thing that I can do is click Command C, Command V, so basically copying and pasting. And then I can change this to be a darker color that I might want, something like that. And then what I can do is double click to activate the shape, and then basically just pull all of those anchor points back to just have a shadow shape. You could also just use the pen tool to redraw the shadow shape, but I just want to show you a couple different options. So let's just say we have something like that. If I wanted to do the same thing with a light shape to have maybe like lighter part in the center, then I would just repeat that process, right? Changing the color slightly. So you can see here how we're starting to build some dimension. Now, if I want to combine this to be one shape so that I don't have to deal with it moving around all the time as I move forward, what I can do is click and highlight both of them, right click, and then I can group them together here. And when I click group, that means that when I move one, I group the other. So really basically now they're the same shape. If I needed to go back in and manipulate this somehow, I would just right click and I would ungroup, and now I can move those parts again. So for now, let's go ahead and keep them grouped. The other thing that you can do, so this is one way to make a banana. The second thing that you can do is actually just start from a shape and manipulate it. So I might take a circle, and once again, I can change the colors, do all the same thing as we did with the first banana, can make it bigger, and then what I can do is actually just manipulate the circle by pulling, so creating new anchor points to get my banana shape. Now, I don't like this that much for the banana. I find that it was easier to do it using the pen tool, but this is really how you manipulate shapes otherwise. I'm going to make this a little more opaque so I can see my drawing. This is how you would manipulate shapes otherwise in Illustrator or in Vectr, right? So we're basically pulling points to modify and create new shapes. Same thing, you'll see that we have some different options in terms of sort of being able to smooth things out. You'll see that this bar comes up, and that is also to sort of push and pull. So that's another option, right? But really, we're just trying to get our banana shape going here. Okay, so that's the second way that you could create a shape. But since we already have our first one, we'll just stick with our first one. Now let's just say I wanted to get started on my background, if I wanted to get started on the banana leaves. So what I can do is go into my layers. This group is our banana here. You can see because it gets highlighted. And what I'm going to do, because I don't want it to move as I'm working in the background, is I'm going to click the little lock button like we did before with our background image so that it doesn't move. I can also just go ahead and get rid of it so that way I'm not worried about it as I'm working on the background. So I have it locked and I have it hidden, and I'm going to go ahead and start working on my leaves. So I'm going to take my pen tool once again, and I'm going to just start tracing my drawing. Now, when I come into a situation like this, I'm just going to draw through, because I will be able to, when I work on the bee, I will be able to move it forward and in front, so I don't want to really worry about it. And I'd rather be able to work on the leaf as one shape than have to worry about like going around it. Okay, so now we have our shape, and same thing, I can zoom in and I'm going to soften where I want to soften my lines. This is really what's going to give it that sort of more natural look. And remember that if you missed any points or you want to create more details, that you can double click anywhere on your shape to create new anchor points. Pause this video, finish refining your shape, and then press play when you're ready. Okay, great. So now I am going to add some color here. So come in here, and I'm going to get rid of my outline in this case. And I actually do like that color, but maybe let's make it a little bit cooler. A little more blue maybe. And I'm going to decrease the opacity once again. Okay, now some options if I wanted to give this a little bit of depth is I could copy, I could paste, same thing, and then I could make this shape on top be a little bit lighter, right? So I could add some dimension that way. And I could then bring it in here so it matches up with my original line. That's one thing that I could do. Something else that I could do is go ahead and just add some more details. So for example, we have this center line here in our original drawing. And I'm going to once again use the pen tool. Okay. Now let's just say I wanted to make the fill of my little detail here in the center of the vein of the leaf be the same color as what's over here. So what I could do is click fill, click on this icon, and you're just going to see that there's a dropper. So I can take the dropper, and what it does is basically identify what the color is. So if I click here, then it matches. So that's a really helpful tool, especially if you're using the same color scheme all the way around. Once again, I'm going to take off my highlight because I don't want that. And then I think that I want to make this a little bit lighter so I have more contrast. Okay. And you can see now how we're starting to build some dimension, build some detail. Once again, I could copy and paste this and then make this a lighter color too, right? So if we're talking about simplifying things into 3 values, you can see we're really starting to build up some character in this leaf. Other things I could do are, add some sort of panel-like shapes here. Right, and have those be different colors and copy paste and manipulate them as I go down. If there was something that you wanted to repeat, so you have copying and pasting, but if you needed to flip it, you'll see that there's this icon up here. We have flip horizontally or flip vertically. So that's really nice, especially if you're working with a floral shape or trying to make some sort of floral shape. Now, if you're wondering what this is here, this has to do with the placement of the item. So if I wanted to send it back, I could click send to back, or if I wanted to send it to the front, I could send to the front. Same thing with any of these other shapes. So I'm going to get rid of these for right now. But let's see what we have all together right now. So if I make my banana visible, great. And then we have our image from behind. So we're doing pretty good. So I would like to right now go ahead and combine or group. So right click and group my leaf so that that is all together on its own. Okay. Make it a bit bigger. Fantastic. So if we go back now that we have a few more layers, whatever is on the top is going to be in front. So that's going to be our latest thing. Whatever's on the bottom is going more towards the background. So for example, if I want my banana to be in the front, you can see it kind of shift how it changed. I want to put it up in the front. In Illustrator, if you use Illustrator one day, you can name the layers. In this case, I have not figured out how to do it in this program, but that's just something to mention. So you can only identify them by saying that they're highlighted on your piece. Now let's move on to the B. So at this point, if you have a lot of complicated text, you can certainly upload a new image and then trace over your text. You can also use the text tool here. And it does have some fonts. You can see if there's something similar to what you were using. But I would say don't compromise on the font. Just like if you don't find the font that you want here, then go ahead and trace it. So I'll kind of show you how to do it the old-fashioned way, if you will, or maybe the more hand-drawn way. But I want you to know that text is there, especially if you have like a quote. Maybe you want to use the text that's in Vectr. Okay, so let's get rid of this. Just so I can work on my bee, I am going to take away my leaf. So I went ahead and hit it. Once again, I'm going to come back to the pen tool. I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to outline the bee. I think that in some ways, working digitally, like doing this might seem like it's taking a lot more time, but when you consider how quickly you can erase things and move things, and then you also save time. So it's sort of a toss-up. Okay, so I have my bee there. Now I want to draw in these little shapes down here. I'm going to copy paste that so I don't have to do it twice. So copy and pasted, have this down here. Okay, great. Now, something I can do, since these shapes are on top of these shapes, they're different. So if I highlight them both, you're going to see that I can do what's called subtract. And basically for subtracting, we are subtracting this from the bigger B shape. So when you click subtract, you're subtracting one shape from the other. So now when I go to click this B and I fill it, I actually have the B shape, where if we would have done it before, it would have read as two shapes. So we put the bigger shape down first, the smaller shape on top, and to then subtract the smaller shape, you hit subtract. Well, I'm going to choose maybe like a softer pink color. And I want to add a little bit of depth to this. So I'm going to make well, first I want to soften it. Same thing, right? And assuming I softened everything, if I wanted to create some sort of thickness here, same thing, I'm going to use my pen tool. I'm going to zoom in. And I can just sort of outline and fill in this shape, say with another color. And same thing, it could fill in using the pen tool again. And we're starting to really add some depth to our letters here. Okay, once again, if I wanted to group this, I would highlight, right click, and group, and now I have them as one. So let's see where we are right now. I can go into my layers, show everything, right? If for whatever reason your bee is going behind your leaf, then you're going to want to switch it to make sure that it's at the top. And so you can see how things are coming together now. Some other tools for you to play around with are, so you have all of your shapes in here, right, that you can manipulate in some way. You also have the pencil tool, which I think is a little clunky to use, but it's more of a freehand drawing. So if you click with your non-dominant hand and then you draw with your dominant hand, you could make some sort of texture or something, but it's not my particular favorite. And then something else that you can do is elements. So in elements here, you have some different arrows, badges. I think that for the most part, some of these look a little bit hokey, a little bit gimmicky, but you could certainly, if something really fits into your design, you can drag it in here and use it if that is something that you would like to do. We have some different patterns, some different things that you can add in there. So for the rest of class, go ahead and basically try to complete this design in any way that you would like. So make sure that you have a good command over how the layers work, how to make a shape and manipulate a shape using the pen tool. knowing what an anchor is and how to create them, and how to add depth, use the colors, add a gradient. So just all of the tools, familiarize yourself with the tools so that you would be able to do this for your design. Thank you.